Welcome to the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network. I'm the Gothic Rose, and this is the dark tale of the day. Hello, dear fiends of the Den. I am the Gothic Rose, and as you know, here at the Dark Entertainment Network, this is a channel where the news meets conspiracy theories. It makes babies in my brain, and it comes out my mouth. If you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Welcome back, dear fiends of the Den, as we continue the haunted history of Hollywood and find out what the suffragettes' impact was on Hollywood. Today, my style is no makeup except for red lips in honor of these women, and we will get to why. Hollywood's complex relationship with the suffragettes started out as many of them were not taken seriously, especially in the world of Hollywood. But the suffragette movement wasn't just about marches and protests. It was a battle fought on screen as well. So in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, suffragettes used film as a powerful tool to shape public perception and rally support for women's voting rights. While early Hollywood often mocked the efforts, the suffragettes turned the camera to their advantage, producing their own films to educate, inspire, and mobilize their voters. And that is how they won the ratification of the 19th Amendment. But remember, it was based on race. Black women still did not have the right to vote until 1965. So as you can see, all of these women here have short hair, minimal makeup, if any at all. They're dressed head to toe in black with hats, and the most important thing is their signs. Votes for women, have a meeting, come to our meeting, and they were all about education. This was a massive worldwide effort for women to gain the right to vote, and their styles, so their hair trends, were elegant updos, shorter hairstyles, and the natural hair movement. So they would wear their hair in neat buns or Gibson girl waves and maintain a respectable and conventional appearance while engaging in radical activism. And here I love this bag that says American Suffragette, and they went to simple, natural hairstyles to emphasize the focus on political change rather than vanity. But the red lipstick, like I'm wearing in the early 1900s, suffragettes wore red lipstick as a bold statement of independence and defiance against societal norms. And it was seen as a symbol of intelligence and strength. And then many suffragettes went with minimal makeup, avoiding heavy cosmetics, choosing a more natural look to reinforce the seriousness and credibility of the suffragette movement. And we're going to get to Elizabeth Arden's Red Door and her influence on the suffragette movement next week. It is an amazing story. Now, fashion was an important statement, but not for style reasons, but for political reasons. So white dresses were worn during protests and parades to symbolize purity and the righteousness of the movement. Tailored coats and blouses were practical yet elegant, allowing ease of movement while maintaining a polished appearance. And then we get to boots and shorter skirts. So as hemlines rose above the ankle, boots became a staple to cover exposed skin while enabling mobility. Now here we see the women in their tailored coats and these white hats, and they all have dark coats and white hats here, and they're holding spears, which I love, and an American flag, and the bag says votes for women. I can't read what the bottom says, but this was their statement, and this was how they used fashion to influence the right to vote. Still very feminine, but very, very powerful. Now here we see the women in their tailored. Now here are the women holding up signs against Woodrow Wilson because they're saying he was against women. And remember, D.W. Griffith had a premiere for The Birth of a Nation at the White House in 1915 when Woodrow Wilson was president. But years later, Woodrow Wilson denounced the film. Oh, history. Here we go. Here's how Woodrow Wilson felt about suffragettes. His stance evolved over time. Initially, he was lukewarm towards women's suffrage, believing it should be decided at the state level rather than through a federal amendment. However, suffragettes picketed outside the White House in 1917, demanding his support, and this is when 33 of them were arrested, and Woodrow Wilson was appalled to learn that the imprisoned suffragettes were being force fed after going on hunger strikes. So by 1918, Wilson publicly endorsed the 19th Amendment, arguing that women had proved their worth through their contributions during World War I. In a speech before Congress, he stated, "We have made partners of the women in this war. Shall we admit them only to a partnership of suffering and sacrifice and toil, and not to a partnership of privilege and right?" So his support was crucial in ratifying the 19th Amendment in 1920. The suffragettes' response to Wilson's flip-flop and support was a mix of relief and skepticism, but they also continued the pressure. So, still, this did leave African American women disenfranchised until 1965. But it was a huge step. And of course, oh history, we are back to losing rights again. And here with this sign, we see that the skirts are a bit shorter, so they have higher boots. And this sign they're holding up says, "We protest against the 34 willful senators who have delayed the political freedom of American women. They have obstructed the war program of the president. They have lined up the Senate with Prussia by their denial of self-government to the people." And this is a photo of what is called the Night of Terror, November 4th, 1917, when, and this says 33 suffragettes, but the sign before it said 34, so we're going with 34. Suffragettes were imprisoned at the Occoquan Workhouse in Virginia and brutally beaten and tortured, including Dorothy Day and Alice Paul, and they were described as frail or Dorothy Day was described as a frail girl but endured violent treatment, and Alice Paul and others went on hunger strikes leading to the force feeding. So this is a photo of that night. I don't know if either of those women are photographed here, but this is that historic photo that earned women the right to vote. So these two women are putting up a poster telling everyone to go to the Capitol May 9th, and they're dressed in suffragette white with their hats and their banners. So the suffragette colors were the Women's Social and Political Union. This is the WSPU, adopted the colors purple, white, and green, representing dignity, purity, and hope. And obviously, we see the large decorative hats with feathers and boas. And this was to maintain a feminine image while engaging in activism. And many women wore trousers and overalls, challenging traditional gender norms, but this was often mocked by opponents. Without Hollywood and films, the suffragettes would not have had that little ace in their pocket to help push forward the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Hollywood history is, like I said, intertwined with politics. They are good friends. They use each other. So let's keep going. Next week, Elizabeth Arden's Red Door and more. Thank you for joining me on this episode in the Den. Without Hollywood and films, the suffragettes would not have had that little ace And if you have any tips to share, please email me at welcometothedenpodcast.com. If you'd like to be a guest, let me know. You just must be 21 and over. And my dear fiends of the den, if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And thank you always for joining me here on the Dark Entertainment Network.